Chameleon Assassin. Chameleon Assassin Series, Book 1. Written by B.R. Kingsolver. Narrated by Hannah Hart and Edward Fox.
The doorbell sounded at the crack of dawn. I tried to ignore it, hoping the idiot would go away. No luck. The bell kept ringing. Stumbling out of bed, I grabbed my pistol. Anyone calling at that time of the morning had already proven themselves an enemy. It was Blaine. "Do you know what time it is?"
Yes.
He said.
It's 9:30.
The only reason I didn't shoot him was because he held out a carry-out cup of coffee. I cautiously took it and sniffed it. Caramel mocha. He was still a bastard, but I'd let him live. Inhaling the fumes and taking small sips as I sat on the couch, I gave him the evil eye. "What the hell is so important that you can't wait until noon?" I asked. He held out a handful of documents in hard copy and several chips. Student ID, corporate ID, passport, transcripts, birth certificate. Jasmine Keller had everything except a boyfriend. The pictures I'd given Blaine were on every document that needed them. "You have this identity flagged in your systems?" I said.
Of course. She's entered and validated across the board.
"Take off the flags. Make her anonymous." He blinked at me, then he blinked again. "This," I held up all the documents, "is mine. She's not yours. She's available to me after this contract without any flags. Fix it. I'll know if you don't."
Well, I mean, we've contracted you.
He stuttered. "Your password on your personal account is capital X YZ 5347602, I said. "Your validation question answer is Helen, a name I'm sure your ex-wife would be interested in. I'll know if you leave any flags on this identity." Probably not the smartest or most diplomatic way to start a relationship with a client, but I was groggy. I hated him for waking me up, and I suddenly felt the need to establish who was in charge. He might be paying me, but I wasn't his lackey. He stared at me for some time, his face set in stone and his eyes angry.
I'll take care of it,
he finally said. "Good. I assume you have a dossier on this case for me to read?" He handed me a chip. "Thanks. Are my contact numbers and addresses on this?" He nodded. "Send my guardian angel over at 1 o'clock so we can work out the details."
I'm sorry. Details?
Blaine must have been slow that morning. Code words: when and where we'll communicate, when he'll charge in to save the day and when he won't. You know, that sort of minor details. "Mr. Blaine, I hope you've assigned the A-team to cover me. If this guy's an idiot..." I let my sentence die.
You're pretty damned cocky,
he said. That was the second time I'd provoked him to anger. I made a note that he wasn't as sure of himself as he tried to project. If I was in his position, I'd be a lot more confident. "We can walk away from this deal right now," I said. "You're the one who solicited me. Either we deal as equal partners or we don't deal at all." He silently regarded me, then sighed.
You're right,
he said.
I'll send Wilbur over at 1.
Wilbur? Wilberforce had parents with a bizarre sense of humor. On the other hand, I certainly wasn't going to make fun of his name. 6 feet 5 inches with shoulders he had to turn to get through a door. He had a shaved head, dark eyes, golden brown skin, and the kind of chiseled face the entertainment industry favored for action heroes. His arms rippled with muscle, and his six-pack had a six-pack. I guessed he was about 10 years older than I was. With my usual aplomb, I opened the door and stared at him with my mouth agape. Before I started to drool, he said in a baritone voice that caused various parts of my anatomy to heat up.
Miss Nelson, I'm Wilberforce. Mr. Blaine sent me?
Of course, I stammered. Won't you come in? As he passed through the door, I wondered whether I was quick enough to hit the floor first if I tripped him. Can I get you something to drink?
Water, if you please. Thank you.
I tried to think of something else to ask him just so I could hear his voice. Where had this man been all my life? The answer was pretty obvious. Spending his time being chased by supermodels and vid stars. Get a hold of yourself, Libby. Even in my natural form, I couldn't compete for a guy like him, let alone wearing Jasmine's form, which I'd put on for our meeting. I doubted an awkward nerd would ring his bell. I brought him a glass of water.
Mr. Blaine said you wanted to get together to coordinate your protection.
Wilbur said. Yeah. I stopped, seized hold of my libido, strangled it, and stuffed it in a hole deep in my mind where it continued to pant and drool. Taking a breath, I said, I think we should each understand the other's understanding of our relationship. Don't you agree? Why did I use the word relationship? Partnership? What the hell word should I use that didn't set off unwelcome visions in my mind? Luckily, Wilbur was a professional. He asked what my plan was. We discussed several aspects of it, and he made a couple of good suggestions. Neither of us thought this investigation would be quick or easy.
You do know that drug investigations sometimes take months, if not years.
He asked. Did that mean we would move in together? My libido asked, but I stomped on it again. We worked out code words for various scenarios and actions, and he gave me an earpiece to keep in contact with him. He told me it contained a tracker and showed me how to shut the audio off.
You're starting tonight?
He asked. Yes, but just preliminary scouting runs. I know one club where the stuff is being peddled, but I want to find out how widespread it is. A friend of mine runs the Pinnacle, and although I've never noticed much of a drug scene there, their clientele fits the older end of the demographic. He nodded.
I assume you won't be wearing your disguise for that?
He said.
Do you want me following you when you're Elizabeth Nelson or only as Jasmine Keller?
Ooh, good question. Suppose I tell you when I don't need you. I have a date tomorrow night. I don't think that would be comfortable for either of us, let alone Ron. Wilbur nodded.
That makes sense.
Tonight, I'll go to the Pinnacle as myself. Did Blaine give you a picture? Wilbur nodded again. I'll be asking a lot of questions, and I'd appreciate your noticing if anyone seems to pay too much attention to me.
All right. I'll see you there tonight. Turn your comlink on so we can test it.
Thanks for stopping by, Wilbur. For the first time, he smiled, and as I melted into a puddle on the floor, he said,
Just call me Will.
This has been Chameleon Assassin, Chameleon Assassin Series, Book 1. Written by B.R. Kingsolver. Narrated by Hannah Hart.